In public safety, we spend an enormous amount of time talking about projects. We talk about requirements, we talk about procurement, we talk about grants, and we talk about implementations. We also talk about cutovers, testing, and eventually we talk about the go-live. That's the day the system finally goes into production. The day everyone takes pictures, the day the press releases go out, and the day leadership congratulates the team. We all sit back and declare the project complete, but there's an uncomfortable reality. Although the project may be complete, the responsibility isn't. Because whether we're talking about NG911, CAD, GIS, a new radio system, or a cloud migration with AI tools, cybersecurity, and SD-WAN, or practically any other public safety technology, the most important day is often the day after go-live. Today, I want to talk about what happens after the celebration ends. And that's coming up next on TiPS, Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm a NENA certified ENP, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I bring you the latest information and news on public safety solutions and next generation 911. The celebration phase. Every successful project has got a finish line. The system works, the acceptance tests were passed, the stakeholders sign off on the paperwork, and the vendor gets their final payment. And after months of hard works, everyone gets to take a well-deserved breather. And you know what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with celebrating success. The larger public safety projects are, the more difficult they are. They can take years and then require coordination across agencies, vendors, consultants, as well as the operational staff. And as for all the people on the project, well, they worked hard and should celebrate those accomplishments. But the problem is that many organizations unconsciously treat that go-live as the destination, where in reality, go-live is the starting line. And that's because the technology's finally entered the environment where it's got to survive contact with reality. And unfortunately, reality, well, it's a lot more complicated than the test lab ever was. The vanishing project team. One of the most predictable things that happens after go-live is the project team begins to disappear. The consultants move on, the implementation engineers get assigned to another job, and the vendor project manager, well, they start their next deployment. Inside the customer, the executive sponsor may change roles, or the internal champion retires or gets promoted. All of a sudden, the people who just spent 2 years making all the decisions are no longer sitting around the table, but the system remains. And as for the people who are left to inherit it, well, they're often left asking dangerous questions, like, why did we do it this way? And unfortunately, the frequent answer is, gee, nobody remembers. And that's how your institutional knowledge begins to evaporate around you. The configuration graveyard. Every public safety system out there eventually accumulates mysteries. It could be a routing rule that nobody wants to touch, or a firewall policy that everybody is afraid to remove or even touch. Maybe a CAD workflow that seems unnecessary, yet it's existed for years, or a GIS process that only one person really understands, or a SIP configuration that nobody can explain. Then you've got that funky radio setting that everyone assumes is important because there's a yellow sticky note on the rack that says, "Don't touch." And over time, your system has become an archaeological site with layers of decisions built upon earlier decisions that have long since been forgotten. Now, many of these things were absolutely correct when they were made, but the challenge is nobody actually documented the reasoning. And once the reasoning begins to disappear, well, that's when the risk begins to grow. The test that you stopped running. Another problem that frequently appears after go-live is that testing gradually slows down, and then one day, it stops altogether. Failover procedures that were tested monthly become quarterly events. and then quarterly becomes annual. And annual finally becomes, hey, remember that thing over there? We should probably test that sometime. All too often, backup systems become assumptions. Redundancy gets reduced to a PowerPoint slide, and disaster recovery is remanded to being just a binder on the shelf. Until the disaster happens, and then everyone's scrambling to discover whether that backup plan actually works or not. And that's typically the worst possible moment. You see, the uncomfortable truth is that resilience is not something that you can purchase. It's something that you have to continuously validate. The ownership problem. Yeah, technology projects often have owners. The operational systems will require stewardship, but those aren't the same thing. Ownership says, I approve this project, while stewardship says, I'm responsible for its ongoing success. Now, for the organizations that thrive after deployment, well, they understand this distinction. They establish governance and they review performance. They revisit assumptions and readjust where needed. And they also train new personnel while documenting any new decisions. And they make sure that they're ready for the worst day by testing recovery procedures, documenting how well they did, and continuously try to improve operations. You see, they recognize that technology isn't a static asset. It's actually a living system. The public safety difference. In many industries, a technology failure will just create some inconvenience. But in public safety, that event can create consequences. And that is what changes the entire conversation. A missed call, a failed transfer, or a location error or GIS discrepancy, along with routing issues and radio coverage gaps, well, these are not merely technical problems. They may start out that way, but they quickly become operational problems. And most operational problems eventually become human problems. And that's one of the main reasons why public safety organizations simply can't afford to treat technology as a one-time project. No, the mission is ongoing. The stewardship must be ongoing as well. The bottom line. You can't say the project is finished when the system goes live. No, the project is finished when the organization can sustain it, when knowledge survives turnover, when the documentation will survive personnel changes, as well as when testing survives budget cycles and governance survives leadership transitions. It's when the system continues to improve years after the ribbon cutting. And that's because in public safety, success can't be measured by how well a project launches. No, it's measured by how well it performs long after everyone has stopped talking about it. And that's why the most important day of any technology project may not be the day it goes live. It just may be the day after. That wraps up this episode of TiPS Today in Public Safety. I hope we connected a few neurons and got you thinking in some new directions. Remember, new episodes are posted every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, streaming live at 8 a.m. on 911tips.com and most social media platforms. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next time. And if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. This is Fletch. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Hey, it's Fletch. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you learned something new. Remember to catch all of my previous episodes of TiPS Today in Public Safety, published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on most social media platforms and streaming 24/7 at 911tips.com. My blogs are located at fletch.TV, and my professional website is at fletch911.com. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out the algorithms. And if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
You've been listening to TiPS Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG 911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.